quorum.
Do we?
One of those things that's so nice to go by the picture, You're sending us a message.
But he also said he was your dad.
You do have fun, don't you?
How you doing?
Are you 45?
Okay, how's it going?
We ready?
Ready, Freddie?
I'm not gonna take no more mail without a
Okay.
returned address either.
We'll call the special meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll. He said yes.
Mayor Miller. Mayor Miller present on roll call.
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
Monroe,
Here.
Simmons is absent, Parker,
Here.
Stacy,
Here.
Shadle,
Here.
Sanders, and Sellers are absent. But we do have a quorum, Chair.
Very good. Could you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
There was none. So we move to item 6, which is discussion of the following budget items. General fund, revenue, government buildings, cemetery, neighborhoods, tourism, debt service, healthcare, landfill closure, garbage, downtown revitalization loan, and Manager Boyer.
Thank you. There we go. All right, good evening, everyone. So we're going to talk about revenues tonight, and we're going to start with basically everything from 101,000 to 101,000,4960. So the first one, sorry, I'm getting a little distracted there. So we'll start here with the first one, the property taxes. So we budgeted the same amount as last year for property taxes. However, we're still waiting on the EAV to make this correct. So right now we've got about $2.8 million budgeted in revenue for property taxes. Income tax, we're looking at about $1.4 million. The portion we received for the income tax is based on the 2020 census figures. So again, this is an estimate. Replacement tax, corporate, we're looking at some reductions, primarily due to the state reallocation of funds from the local government distributed fund and the personal property replacement tax. So that will be lower than it was last year. Municipal sales tax, about $5.8 million. This is not including the 1% that we moved forward earlier this year in March. And that will be reflected in the street budget in ensuing meetings. The municipal sales tax, the home rule sales tax, it's 1.25%, and that's 4.6. That's what we're estimating for next year. Special use tax, so this is $599,000. This has been decreasing over the past years due to leveling of the Playing Field Act of 2021. We've got video game tax, $605,000. The Illinois Gaming Board website has all the details in our area and how much we collect, so this is continuing to move along. Cannabis use tax, state allocation based on the population, as we don't have a dispensary here in town, so we get an estimate from the state, so that'll be $39,000. IDOT reimbursement for maintenance, $85,000. That's yearly. That's for maintaining IDOT thoroughfares through town. That would be minor repairs and that type of thing, pothole patching and such. Reimbursement for traffic signals, $25,000, and that's a reimbursement from the state for repairs to traffic signals in state right-of-way. We've got food and beverage, about $840,000. That's 1.25 local tax directly back to the city of Freeport for food and beverage. Electric tax, we're looking at about $880,000 from ComEd, and natural gas, $660 from NICOR. The telephone use tax, again, this one is continuing to decrease over the years. So right now, we're budgeting for $198,000 for this year, but it will continue to drop. Cable TV, similar situation. We're budgeting for $260,000 this year, but it's decreasing as people cut the cord, and we'll be evaluating any kind of streaming tax that we can do to replace that in the future. We've got reimbursement for fire, so there's $25,000. That's training and other salary reimbursements, and then same thing for police, $25,000, and also again salary reimbursements. Small miscellaneous grants we have left blank due to the fact that we don't know what we'll receive, so that is that will change as the year progresses. And then, of course, federal grant ARPA is no longer in effect. Sustained traffic enforcement, so that's a grant for the police, so holiday traffic stops and safety-related funding there, so about $20,000. And I'll move down here to a few of these other ones. Liquor licenses, we receive about $100,000 in revenue each year for liquor licenses, so approximately $10,000 a piece, and we're receiving income from about 10 different establishments. Moving on down to construction and local and zoning permits, about $200,000 a year in those. And we'll move down to 101-4620 airport fuel sales. We're receiving about $190,000 a year in fuel sales. 4670 down at the bottom, miscellaneous other charges for service. That is for grave openings and so forth. So you've got about $20,000 a year coming in from that.
What is that from?
That'd be the fees that we charge to open graves and inter people when they are interred at the cemetery. Let's see here. Community develop fines, traffic, DUIs, ordinance, and that about $140,000 per year. So we're budgeting for that through the circuit clerk. And that moving down to 4730 city ordinance fines, we receive about $55,000 a year in ordinance violation fines, adjudication hearings, and so forth. If you don't mind, I'd like to move down to 4820, water, sewer in lieu of taxes. So this is paid from the water and sewer to the city, as well as the next three, water and sewer, accountancy fee, and the distribution to corporate fund. So these are all the utility compensating the city for work related to those. And then interest income, we're budgeting about $900,000 in interest income. So this is interest generated from all accounting funds.
From all what?
So this is the interest that we receive from all the accrued funds that are sitting in bank accounts. So we're generating about $900,000 in interest each year. And then transfer from 32, Fund 32, that's $778,000. And that's from Fund 331, Capital Fire Improvement, about 54% of the net ambulance revenues. So that our total revenue estimate or revenue budget for 2025 is $25,485,575. That is down slightly from 2024. But there are a few things that we don't have in here yet, as I mentioned in the beginning. We haven't updated the EAV calculations, so we'll see what happens with that. Yes, Joy?
Yes, excuse me. What is foreign, is it sheriff or shift, or what is that?
What code is it? Which one are you looking at?
4705, what is that? Excuse me.
Michelle, would you like to comment on that one?
I might ask Chief too, because it comes from the circuit clerk's office.
Oh, okay.
So we get several fees that come through the courts. I think it's maybe something about being served out of the county or something like that. We get a fee.
Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I never get to see the money coming in. But if that's what you're saying, it could be the amounts that we put on warrants when we serve a warrant.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Stacy, did you have further?
I did. I had a couple questions with these zeros. Like the special event permit and fees.
Right, so those are gonna be so small, we're not 100% sure what we're gonna receive, and so we don't bother entering it.
And the federal grant as well?
Well, federal grant ARPA is over. If you're referring to Fund 4356, that's no longer in effect. It's just a legacy left over from a couple years ago.
Greg?
Alderman Clement.
Rob, could you tell us, you kind of went over it, but what is Fund 32? It's the one down next to the bottom,
Yep.
4950.
Ambulance.
Ambulance? Okay.
So I'm gonna have the chief go ahead and fill in on that one.
That's the proceeds from ambulance billing and transports, whereas the city by ordinance takes 54% of that. So that's, represents that figure there.
Thank you. We just donated to that. Appreciate it.
Thank
You
you.
guys did a great job. Thank you. Just didn't know what it was, sorry.
Sure.
I just would like to make a comment on that. I feel like we should be finding a way to milk ourselves off of that, moving that into the general fund, just because those pieces of apparatus are so expensive that money we should be saving that for when those trucks need to be replaced, so that we don't go out and borrow money. I know that's hard once that funding starts coming into the budget. It's hard to get away from it, but it's something we really need to work at.
And point of note, we did make an extra contribution, or we budgeted for the process of transferring that back in. Do you recall what that was, Michelle? I thought it was about.
I'm not sure what you mean.
On the Fund 32 transfer from Fund 32, we reduced the amount of transfer by, I think, about $100,000, so that we can begin to make that kind of be in line with what Alderman Shadle mentioned.
Well, I know we're less than what we have budgeted this year,
Yep.
but it's truly based on the ordinance, and there's a set formula on how that's supposed to be done. 54%, like you say, comes back to the general fund. Another thought with that was, that I've had with the city manager, is perhaps that should be, or a portion be earmarked for public works equipment, because they are having the same problem as fire is having too, about being able to replace those big trucks.
Certainly.
Question?
Thank you. Alderman Clement.
When was the ordinance changed?
I thought,
No.
oh, sorry. I thought the percentage was changed maybe back in 19 or so, but I would have to look it up, I'm sorry.
Okay. Would you, just for curiosity, thank you.
Can I ask a
Sully.
question? Can they repeat what the transfer from Fund 32 means? Because I don't understand it. Who was talking about it?
Sure. Michelle, would you mind explaining that too?
So it says 32, but it's 332 since we changed the new account, the new software. But 332 brings in all the ambulance revenue for the fire department. And some of the equipment needs for the fire department are expensed out of that department, out of that fund as well. And there's an ordinance that exists in the codified ordinances that 54% of the net revenue generated in that fund comes back to the general fund. So that's what I'm doing, because it's an ordinance, it's in stone
Okay, and
for now.
Go ahead.
just you would like to see, can you explain that to me a little better? Because I'm a little.
This money that's taken in this fund is supposed to be used, as it was originally written, was supposed to be used for fire department apparatus, new trucks. As they come for need, we have a funding source for that. And through the course of time, some of that money, 54%, has been diverted from that fund into the general fund. And I'm just saying that I feel we need to look at getting things back to keeping that money in the fund so that when these trucks do wear out, that $250,000, we're not borrowing money,
Makes sense.
that we've got the money saved for it. And I just feel that's something we need to put on our radar and revisit.
Okay, and do we know out of the 54%, what that amount was, you know, so that I can kind of know what the 54% of that was that went into the general fund?
That'd be the 778,
Oh, okay. That went into the general fund?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
May I add to that as well, please?
absolutely.
So, yes, Alderman Shadle is correct. It was intended for apparatus, but that's the fire department capital fund. That is also much broader used for that fund. It's also paying for central fire station. It's paying for hose, equipment, support equipment for the fire department. So that takes it takes pressure off the general fund. So within 332, it's accounted for apparatus, the large trucks, cars, ambulances, again, the stations, various lengths of hose, firefighting foam. So everything a great deal of things that we need for operations, consumables, comes out of that fund. And then the 101 fund, the general fund, is largely for salaries and benefits. So we did do a study, an amortization study of what it would cost per year out of that fund to allow for replacement of apparatus and not having to finance anything. So if we started this year up until when all the other apparatus that we have need to be replaced, a little over $1 million, everything would be planned for, $1 million each year. So 20 years from now, when the big expensive ladder truck needs to be replaced, money's there. 7 years from now, when these new ambulances need to be replaced, the money is there. So a new pumper that if we were to order it today, pay for it in 4 years, that money would be there and be replaced. We wouldn't have to bond out any more of this expensive stuff. It would all be planned for, accounted for, and saved for.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to know what caused, and you said there was what caused the change to make us do that? To take the 50% off and put it in the general fund? Why can't it just stay the way it was, or I guess?
We've been doing this as long as I've been here, and that's 10 years. The ordinance goes back to 2008
Oh, okay.
originally.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't new.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the percentage, it looks like the percentage was changed just briefly from, up to a higher percentage from 18 to 19, but otherwise it's the same.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Alderman Shadle. That would be great if it were used and utilized in a manner that would make sense. The problem is we're still running, $3 million fire engines out to every ambulance call. Been asking about this for almost 4 years now. This is on top of all of the funding that the fire department's already asked for out of the general fund this year. We've replaced a ladder truck, we've replaced an engine, we've replaced 3 ambulances. Have we not? And we've replaced a bunch of hose and other equipment. So it's important that we kind of put this into perspective because we've got other things in the meantime that we need to address. And by moving that money back into the fire department, it doesn't really free up money. It actually puts strain and stress on the other assets of the city. So right now, we're already having problems with Public Works. We're having problems with the police department at times. And we have to replace a lot of equipment. That money is important, but it's not really a fire department slush fund. And that is something we need to avoid as we go through the coming years, because look, I mean, we just got a new chief vehicle. I mean, I could go on and on and on, the stuff that we've bought in the last 4 years. It's important.
I was just
But-
throwing it out there for future debate.
Yeah, well, that's fine, but, you know, the problem is it puts into perspective.
We can debate that further when we debate it. I was just throwing the idea.
Yeah, well, I'm throwing a different idea out there, so.
Alderman, or Manager Boyer?
Chief, would you like to speak to that point
Sure,
about the?
if I may.
Yeah.
We don't run fire apparatus on every ambulance call, absolutely not. But when we do run fire apparatus on ambulance calls, it's because we don't have enough ambulances in service. Our ambulances are already at the hospital or transporting somebody else. So somebody dials 911, an ambulance is not available. A paramedic staffed and equipped fire truck, not the ladder truck, will go until an ambulance can free up from the hospital and respond to pick up the patient. But we cannot delay patient care, obviously, until an ambulance gets in service. So on the other rare occasions, some advanced, pardon me?
You said rare?
On an occasion when, yes, rare for the ladder truck.
No, I'm not saying ladder, I'm saying an engine. I didn't say ladder.
An engine will go when an ambulance is unavailable, or as I was saying, it's an advanced life support call, full cardiac arrest, or a bad trauma, or something like that. 2 paramedics on an ambulance is not enough staffing, not enough manpower to address a critical advanced life support call. So we make that determination based on the call type that comes in. We're very conservative of what calls we send the fire apparatus on because of the wear and tear, because we want to preserve the life of that apparatus.
Thank you. Manager Boyer?
Okay. If there's no more questions on revenue, let's move on to building. Yep.
So would you be in favor of leaving it as it is, or in not the general fund getting that 54%?
Well, I see the merits both ways. Alderman Monroe is correct that by lessening the 54% contribution to the general fund would put more demands on the general fund to pay for salaries and benefits. However, it would better position the city and the fire department, because the fire department's part of the city, for future acquisitions. And when we replace this stuff, it's not because it's nice and shiny, it's because it's all old and falling apart, and the staff vehicle that was replaced is because a 2005 Trailblazer, the frame rusted out and is unsafe to drive any longer. So these are things that have been replaced through wear and tear and attrition that have been neglected in the past. So yes, we're making great steps to position the fleet for long-term use and to reduce these large expenditures going forward, but we're doing it because it's been necessary. So to answer your question, I guess, yes, in a perfect world, it'd be great to be able to amortize more of that money, to save it for future expenditures, and not have to go out and borrow money and pay interest rates for that kind of purchase. But there's a limited amount of money that's available, so as elected officials, we have to use it, you have to determine to use it wisely.
Thank you.
Manager Boyer?
All right, let's move on to 101, 142, 6155. That's government buildings. So this is mostly expenses in 2020 on this first one, 6155. In 2024, we spent about $135,000 fixing the windows. So we could then replace the windows or put storm windows on this building. One of the biggest challenges here is keeping this place heated due to the fact that it's all electric. And the older windows, because of the historic building, it's pretty drafty, and they're only single pane. So next year we're hoping to put storm windows on that are acceptable to the historic building folks. And so anyway, moving on. We have contracted equipment repair and maintenance for essentially for $50,000. That's essentially more just some budget put there in case we have any more issues with the PD building. We're looking at other options for another PD. However, at the current time, we have to make what we have work until we are able to find and move into a new location. So we've gone ahead and budgeted about $50,000 for that. Obviously, we've got natural gas, building supplies, janitorial, and so forth. And then we've got capital outlay. And so that capital outlay there, that $200,000 is for City Hall, and the primary one being the storm windows. So. Sure.
Alderman Monroe.
Is the tuck point making it in this year, or is that pushed off another year?
We're going to hold off on that one more year because we just recently repainted and cleaned all these windows on the outside. I want to get the storm windows put on so that's all preserved and doesn't flake off, and peel and get weathered. So I want to kind of preserve that work. The tuck pointing is necessary. However, I think the windows are going to do two things. It's going to preserve the work that we invested in this year. It's also going to lower some of our costs in terms of heat. So without the drafty windows. All right, with that, I'd like to move on to cemetery care fund. This one's pretty straightforward. We receive revenue in two forms in the cemetery care fund. One is through grave and urn purchases, and the other one is interest income. So we're expecting about $9,200 in grave and urn purchases, and that's just based on previous activity. That could go up depending or down depending on the activity. And then as far as expenses, contracted building repair and maintenance, currently we don't have anything planned for cemetery in terms of for major repairs out there. We've replaced all of the roofs on all of the mausoleums that need to be replaced, and the garage is doing okay, so there's really nothing we need to worry about in that regard. So any questions on the cemetery care fund?
Alderman Sellers.
I do think it needs the fence that's facing Lincoln. Oh, I'm sorry. The fence that's facing Lincoln, it could get a nice paint job.
Okay.
It
Well, I'm sure we can
kinda
accommodate that.
Creepy, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it
fine.
would look nice with a nice paint job or something.
Okay. Okay, with that, we can move on to Neighborhood Housing Fund. So, Neighborhood Housing Fund revenue side, starting with 4125. So this is local tax from property transfer tax of $2 per 500 of consideration when buying a property. So we're receiving about $210,000 in revenue there. And then interest income of about $15,000, and then fund balance transfer. So plan on using the remainder of this fund here on the Neighborhood Housing Fund. Pretty much all we use this for is, not all, but primarily this is used for demolitions. So if you see here in the expense items, about $20,000 for economic development projects and $605,000 for demolitions. The lion's share of that is for the planned demo of the Union School. We're going to continue to look for grants on that, but we're going to go ahead and budget that for next year.
To tear it down?
Well, yes, it'll kind of come in two phases. One would be asbestos remediation and then demo of the school.
So will any of this,
Go ahead.
will any of this also be for some more homes and stuff coming down also? Or this is what Union School is going to cost?
Sure. Wayne, did you have any comments on that? On the Neighborhood Housing Fund, or any of these funds going to use for other demos besides the Union School?
Well, sure, yes, it could be used for other initiatives, but I mean, we're looking at some pretty hefty, that's a hefty budget item. So a typical house is going to cost anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 to demolish, and we're looking at right now anywhere from $200,000 to $250,000 to demolish the Union School. So when we have money in the fund and we currently we own the property, staff thinks it's a good idea to have the money budgeted to demolish it, because otherwise we're going to be preserving it. I personally have walked through the building, and I can tell you there's no hope for it being redeveloped. And truly, we should have the money budgeted here. Would it be nice to get a grant? Yes. Is the city going to work towards grant funds to demolish it? Yes. But I do think that the city should be prepared to demolish this structure.
Go ahead.
I know that this year we had that 300,000 for demos, and then we also had, wasn't it some other money that came in that was gonna be a grant or something? to
So,
help?
sorry, yeah. So $300,000 is a Strong Communities Grant program. That has to be residential housing. So it has to be dilapidated actual residential properties. The Union School is not going to qualify for that grant because it's a former school. So anytime we're using the Strong Communities Program grant funds, that's going to be for houses, duplexes. That's all that would qualify. That's all that qualifies for that grant.
Okay, oh, I just would like to know about how much do we have left in that grant from what we've done this year?
We will probably end up with, when I end up requesting for a grant extension, there will probably end up being $50,000 not spent that I would be asking for an extension on, and that would be at the best case scenario. Right now, I have, by the end of the year, I anticipate spending all of that money.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, or fortunately, how you look at it, I have enough properties to put through that grant to use that money. So, just in residential vacant properties.
Thank you. And just my math on this shows that if you take out the 250 that you're budgeting for demolition of the Union School, that's still leaving about the same 350 that we had last year
Yes, and
for housing.
yes, that would leave the same amount for demolishing houses, but in addition, we're also working on taking down the hotel as well on 20th. So there's some bigger items there that we would like to have that money set aside in case we can move forward with that demolition. Another reason why it's beneficial for a community to purchase properties off the tax sale like the Union School is that the Union School is now in the city's ownership, and when we have the budget item to demolish the Union School, we're ready to do so because we own it. We bought it for the off the back taxes. With the hotel, we're right now in a legal process we're petitioning the court for the right to demolish that hotel. So that's because it's owned by a problem property owner, and we're trying to force a demolition there. However, either way, we need to have the money funded for some large-scale demolitions coming up.
Sure.
So that's one of the reasons we're asking for some more funds here.
Oh, okay. One more
Alderman
question.
Sellers.
Yeah, I'm sorry, another question, is that also a lot of asbestos in there also? in the
That is
hotel?
budgeting for asbestos, yes.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask a question that many Freeport residents have asked me. Why do we keep ending up with all these properties and having to pay to tear them down ourselves? Why aren't we holding previous owners accountable for this and going after them?
Sure. Well, I mean, at some point, what ends up happening here is it's going after bad credit, right? They just stop paying. So we do take them through their admin court. We do eventually, any of these properties that are being forced into demolition, they get what's known as a chronic nuisance, and they start accruing bad debt on them. Okay, so they know they own a bad property. They're receiving the violations, and eventually the city's saying, look, they're not fixing the property. They're not paying for it. It's a public nuisance, and that's the last step is to demolish it. And we're saying, I'll answer that question. We do file a lien on the property, and we do go to bill collections. But if they're not paying, they're not paying. It's a bad debt at some point, if that makes sense. So when we tear down the building, yes, there's a lien on that property. But we've just tore the person's property down. Odds are they're not going to end up paying on that bad debt.
Follow up. So this is a consistent problem that's been going on for many years. And it's not just an individual bad debtor. It's actually the people before that. The Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times both ran articles about local landowners here in Freeport many years ago who were basically buying properties, running them into the ground, and then dumping them on people that couldn't afford it. Those people knew that these properties were in this manner, and we continue to go ahead and do it. I mean, this is costing us over a period of 10 years millions and millions of dollars. And I think somebody needs to be held accountable for this, and it needs to stop, or we need to put an ordinance in place that says, you know what, why are we letting them sell them is a $1 million question.
And if I could just jump in on this one, Alderman Monroe, we do occupy a special role, which is we can go after and receive grant money that we can then go and acquire these properties, take them down. We're budgeting for this year because we're budgeting for it. We own it. We want to get it down. However, we're going to look after all kinds of other ways to fund this that doesn't take money out of the city's back pocket. But at the end of the day, if there's no other choice, then we at least budgeted for it. So I just want you to know that at the end of the day, we're basically the ones that end up getting stuck with these properties, right? I think there's going to be a further conversation with other folks on this particular one, but it's not something I can really get into at this time. So, but I will say we're going to pursue other opportunities to at minimum defray the city's expenses related to this. So we will be pursuing those options.
What do you mean pursuing those options?
I'll be happy to talk offline about it. So, whether it's going out and receiving grant funding to help us take these things down, or opening up a conversation with other units of government, I think we have we'll be opening up those discussions. But we got a budget for it if we want to get it down within the next year, and it's a huge nuisance. It provides safety concerns for the people in the community, and we're going to seek as many other resources as possible, but in the meantime, at least we've got it budgeted and we can begin the process of getting rid of it.
I think I speak for a lot of people in Freeport. A huge nuisance is the second highest taxes in the country as far as property taxes go. That's a huge nuisance, and it's hurting our growth and our potential to grow back. That's $605,000 that could have gone to something else.
It's true. Okay, with that, I'd like to move on to Tourism Fund. So our revenue on this fund is hotel motel tax, approximately $280,000, and it earns about $5,000 a year in interest. So this is a local tax remitted to the city of Freeport. It's 5% on hotel stays. On the expense side, about $248,000 goes to our Economic Development Agency, GFP. And then we also have some miscellaneous expenses related to some of the downtown events. And then also we've got the transfer out to general fund to pay for part of the communication director's salary. Any questions on the tourism fund? No. Okay. All right, with that, let's move to debt service fund. So in this particular fund, we're transferring in funds from the general fund to pay for our debt service. So we'll be bringing in about $3.4 million for the 2016 City Hall and 2020 pension bonds to support the payment of those. Also transferring in $120,000 to pay for the 2015 A bond, which is library, and then the transfer in for streets, which is $477,000. That's for the payment on bonds 2019 A and 2021. Both of those funded street repairs at the city, and they are paid for with the $2 that you pay in your water bill. Transfer in for TIF, you got $112,000. That's paying for the 2018 and 2015 A bonds, and then transfer in from the Fire Improvement Fund. That's $340,000. That pays for 2013 A. That's the Central Fire Station and the 2022 aerial fire truck. So, and I'm kind of repeating myself here through the expenses, but you've got $2 million going for the City Hall bond. $270,000 going to the fire improvement fund. That's, as I mentioned, for the fire truck. $88,000 going to the library to pay for the library bond. $365,000 going for the street bond. $81,000 for TIF principal. Then we've got interest of $1.44 million for City Hall, $70,000 for fire improvement, library $31,000, streets is $112,000, and TIF is $31,000. So, any questions on that?
Alderman Sellers.
Yes, I'd like to know how many bonds you got for the library? How many, I'm sorry.
That's
How many
okay.
bonds
Good
do you have
question.
for the library?
Michelle, could you make sure?
Oh.
Could you go ahead and?
We just have one, and it's the 2015 A1. It's pretty old, and it's just a small portion of that bond is still paying for the library.
So what you're seeing there is the principal and interest payments. They appear separately, but it's so you can tell the difference, how much we're paying for principal, how much we're paying for interest.
Okay.
So the interest was the 88?
80.
Excuse me, Alderperson Stacy, could you please pull your microphone down? But that helps with the people that are here, the people that aren't here, and then we type the minutes from that. So please remember to speak into the microphone.
Sorry.
I was asking if the 88,800 was interest from the 2015 bond
No, that is principal.
principal. And so where's the interest?
It's item
The
8075.
31
31,000. Yes.
is interest alone.
Yep. Okay. With that, I'd like to move on to the healthcare fund. So this fund manages the healthcare expenses for the city employees and retirees. We anticipate a 1.8% increase in medical insurance expense and 6.8% in dental insurance. So the revenue comes in through individual contributions, about $471,000. Also, various, you got the police and fire contributions at various levels and AFSCME. Then you've got employer share, so the employees contribute $2.3 million, and then the retirees contribute $192,000. So your total revenue there is $3.1 million. Then your expenses going out, you've got voluntary life premium $7,600, vision $4,500, retiree premium is $305,000, and then 2.8 for employee premiums. Any questions on the healthcare fund? Okay, with that, I'd like to move on to the landfill closure fund. This is one of the requests from our auditor is we need to start contributing. Right now, it shows as a debt basically, and we're trying to contribute every year to fully fund that landfill closure fund. It's not something we can do all at once, but we are taking steps to make sure that those funds are there when we need them off into the future when the landfill actually closes. So on the revenue side, we are the transfer station rent's about $29,000. So that's the money we receive from Gills to run the transfer station. And then we've got a solar lease. We'll be receiving about $11,000 from Amoresco or whoever the eventual owner will be there. Then we get another $30,000 in interest, and then we also transfer another $500,000 from general fund. And then on the expense side, so contracted infrastructure repair and maintenance, about $150,000. This is basically to maintain the IEPA requirements. And then we've got the landfill closure expense. So this is for monitoring the landfill itself. So any questions on landfill closure fund?
What is the solar lease again?
So earlier this year, we've been moving forward with installing solar panels on the landfill cap of landfill 2 and 3. And as part of that agreement, we receive not only the maintenance, we will no longer have to maintain the mowing in that on landfill 2 and 3, but this is also an outright payment annually that we'll receive from Amoresco for the use of that property. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, with that, I'd like to move on to Health and Environmental Fund. This is a garbage collection. The 14,500 is Gil's reimbursement for property taxes on the transfer station. Also, we receive 2.6 million in recycling fees and waste collection fees. We get about 25,000 in income, and the fund balance transfer is about $360,000. So this is 300 is to fund special bulky waste pickup, and 25 that was one of the things that we talked about as far as being able to help keep people from dumping in town. So we're budgeting for about $300,000 to have the ability to set dumpsters out and have folks fill them up. Bad debt expense, about 20,000. Disposal and recycling, we're kicking out about 2.9, and then real estate and revenue collection services are about $30,000. So, any question on garbage collection?
Alderman Sellers.
Yes, Rob,
Yep.
I guess you kind of, when you were talking, your voice started high and then ended really low, and I
Okay.
couldn't hear
Sorry.
what the end of the fund balance, you said something about recycle dumpsters, helping stop illegal
Right.
dumping and dumpsters. I didn't hear that story.
We're budgeting $300,000 for bulky waste pickup for 2025. So it's just a measure that, we talked about trash busters and that type of
Okay.
thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's not exactly trash busters, but it's
okay.
something along the lines that'll help
Okay.
keep our streets cleaner.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions on the garbage? All right, and we're down to our last one for tonight. Downtown Loan Fund. So the Downtown Loan Fund, we receive about $5,000 in interest, and the fund balance transfers about $40,000. Right now, Mahoney is repaying on a downtown loan. So that's essentially where we're at with that one. So other than that, are there any questions? Okay.
Any further discussion?
Not
Seeing none, we have public comments, if there's any, on anything. Seeing none, I take a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Motion by Parker, second by Sellers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.